Oh, hi there, this is Keaton with Rockdale Music. Today we're going to talk about just a couple basic grooves to get you started playing around the drum set. So the first groove we're going to talk about is a really basic groove that is actually kind of the main basis for everything that this instrument does. And the main aspect to this groove, we're just going to think about it in 2 beats for now. Eventually we'll develop it into a 4-beat phrase, but for now we'll just do 2 beats. So the main thing you're going to think about is beat 1 is going to be in your bass drum, right? So our bass drum down here. And beat 2 is going to be in our snare drum right in between our legs. Right? So this is the whole beat. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So now we're going to add a little bit of coordination in. And we're going to add in our hi-hat to begin with, although you could do this on your ride. If you do this on your ride, this is actually the beat from Booker T and the MG's Green Onions. Right? If we were to do it on our hi-hat, it's also a beat that we find in a lot of really common songs that we hear on the radio, as well as on records or in films or anything. Ready? So now I'm going to speed it up a little. You can hear how it applies to different contexts, maybe in a punk rock setting. Right? Maybe in a really, really slow setting. Right? If we're playing a ballad. Good, so up till now we're just talking about quarter notes, which is the main basic kind of subdivision that we use to count time. So a quarter note, there's actually 4 of them per measure, as the name quarter implies. So right now we're just thinking about 2, let's expand it to all 4 quarter notes. So now instead of just the 2-beat phrase, we're going to think in 4. So it's still 1, 2, 1, 2, but now instead of thinking that, we're going to think 1, 2, 3, 4, as such. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hi-hat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ride. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So on and so forth. So now we're going to talk about eighth notes, which is the next subdivision. A little bit smaller, actually half of the worth of a quarter note. So eighth notes happen at twice the rate that quarter notes happen. So quarter notes happen here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to squeeze an extra note in between each of those to get our eighth notes. And we're going to count that with the word and. So it's going to sound like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So now if we apply the same principle with the same beat that we were just playing, I'll start with quarter notes first and then pick it up into eighth notes. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So now we can mess around with this eighth note matrix that we have, right? We can plug in particularly the bass drum kind of wherever we want. The snare drum stays pretty consistently on 2 and 4 in most music settings, and we call that the backbeat, right? So you're going to want to focus on keeping the snare nice and solid and your hi-hat nice and solid, but mess with moving your bass drum into different gaps, right? So you can be in the gap of maybe an and, maybe you could even be in between an and, which we'll talk about in another lesson. But I'll show you some examples of what you can do with this beat. So. Really try putting it everywhere on the kit, right? Nobody says it has to be on the snare drum. You can do it on the... Play it on the side of the drum. Play it on the toms. there's no rules. Any ideas you have are totally valid, so make sure you experiment and don't forget to have fun.